Anyways, Elijah Moore, last year of the Browns. We had our current guest, Jonathan Peterlin from 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland in April after Moore signed with the Bills right after the draft. Thanks for joining in, Jonathan, and previewing the Browns with us this year.
Hey, Joe, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. Before actually I get to football, I've talked a little bit earlier about this. I wanted to get to it later about LeBron and maybe being traded in the NBA and why it's almost kind of weird to me that ESPN or like the big, talking networks that are trying to fill a slow part of the sports calendar maybe aren't spending much time on that. Is there just no belief that it'll actually happen? Because I don't know, like it does feel like the Lakers are more interested in the future. And he put a pretty clear statement, I thought, out through his agent that, like, if that's going to happen, I might want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird because you'd think ESPN would just latch onto it, and all the major places would. I mean, I would if I were them. I have locally, if we're being honest. It's not like I've shied away from it. Yeah. It's a pretty dead NFL time of the season. And so, so the problem that comes up with this is that for the Cavs to actually make a trade after LeBron opted in, it's going to be really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And everyone keeps pointing how hard it would be. But if anybody could make it happen, it'd be LeBron and Rich Paul trying to find a way to navigate it. But I think the big belief there is that LeBron's not going to take some sort of buyout option, so it's not going to end up being a cheap thing. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it just doesn't seem like – it seems like LeBron is doing the same thing that LeBron always does, which is just tries to make a team – bend to every decision that he wants to have happen. And this is what he does with the Lakers. And he did it in Cleveland. He did it in Miami. Yeah. And it's probably what he's doing right now. So he's almost like the boy who cried wolf. And for some reason, the national publications are starting latching onto it.
Yeah. We had me and our co-host Jeremy, who's not here today, we had a debate last week about what the best possible story would be for him. Yeah. And like Jeremy really wants to see him and Steph play together. So like him going to the Warriors, and there were trade rumors at the deadline. For me though, like I've been consistent on this. I don't know, like you just kind of put it that way. It'd be very, very hard for them to do it. But given that the East looks pretty weak right now, like him kind of finishing the story in Cleveland to me would be like, I think that would be the number one story if I could nitpick anything that would happen with him.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think that's why a lot of people here continue to have some hope, even though it doesn't seem very likely, because if we know anything about LeBron loves a story. Like, LeBron is a storyteller at the end of the day. He loves narratives, and he loves that. And so, like, if anybody were to latch onto it, but, like, it's weird. So many people are thinking that, like, the Knicks would be a higher possibility than the Cavs. And it's like, I get the connection with Mike Brown. Sure, fine. He does. LeBron does love Mike Brown. He does. But, like, that's not enough for LeBron, unless he just thought the only hang-up I have on that, tell me if you agree with this or not, but the only thing I think that would, like, incentivize LeBron is that he could create a new narrative about himself. Like Peyton Manning, for instance. What do we talk about with Peyton Manning? It's that he went to 4 Super Bowls with 4 different head coaches. We look at him like, wow, he could do it with anybody. If he won with New York, he won with 4 different places, and he might be able to turn around. And instead of it seeming like he's always hopping from place to place to place, the narrative would then be, whoa, wait. LeBron took 4 different franchises. He won with 4 different places. Man, he really could just win anywhere. And I think that'd be a way to kind of differentiate himself from MJ, who obviously just won with the Bulls.
I think you're onto it there with the name. Like the number one thing for him there might just be like, oh, I won with the Knicks. Like that just feels like an accomplishment in its own right. That like not that they're not that far away. I mean, they are. If they're not right there with the Cavs as the betting favorite in the East, I'm sure they're close behind. But there would just be something about doing it there on an organization that has kind of been laughed at for decades. It would be bragging rights. It would be more bragging rights. I'm not even sure he needs it, but it would be another feather in his cap. Something he hasn't done yet.
They haven't won in 50 years.
Right.
Like I was talking with my co-host on my show about like the impact that winning in New York has, because like think about like how insane they go when they just make it to the conference finals. I mean, they like shut down Times Square after some of those wins. Like it's it's a big city for a reason, and they're obsessive about basketball. So yeah, the impact would be huge.
Right, the business part of it too. So yeah, I'm very curious in how that develops, and I think, but even money, I would pick that he stays with LA, but I'm kind of hoping that we get something new with him. Jonathan Peterlin with us on the Wester Hotline. So we've been going through the Bills' opponents this week, Jonathan, and Cleveland is late in the year, and whenever we talk quarterback with, and I think we've asked you this way earlier in the offseason, whenever we look at the Bills' schedule, we kind of have a good idea of which quarterback will be in that game in every single week until you get to Cleveland really late in Week 16, which, I don't even know if I want to ask you who will be the starter of that game, because how could you possibly? It's tough enough to predict Week 1 for them, let alone Week 13 or Week 16, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, this is like an impossible scenario, but for you, Joe, we'll try. So how I think it's going to go down is I think Joe Flacco's going to win the job. And then I don't know if you've seen the Browns schedule or not, but the first 6 weeks are just brutal. All you're doing is you're playing every AFC North quarterback. That's Burrow, that's Lamar, that's Rodgers. And then you also you got a trip to London in there to play J.J. McCarthy. It's probably the easiest thing. Jordan Love is in there. The point is that it's a lot of tough quarterbacks in the first 6 weeks, extended out to the first 7 or 8. It's not an easy schedule. So I think Joe Flacco gets to start out of the gate. And I think he struggles, but does Joe Flacco things where some of it's fun, some of it isn't fun, and ultimately the thing starts to take a dip down. And then I think it's Shedeur Sanders after that. And then the bet I'd be making is Shedeur keeps the job the rest of the way. But more people than not believe that we'll see all 4 quarterbacks, and that's Kenny Pickett included, that's Dillon Gabriel included. Then we'll just see a sweet transition from Joe to Shedeur, and that's it.
Would that imply that they would keep all 4? Because doesn't that seem unlikely, or do you think that they would do that?
The prevailing thought right now, so I don't think they will. I think the Kenny Pickett stuff is all just them trying to drive up some sense of a price. I think the Browns will love the idea of getting, if they traded for him initially for a 5th-round pick in DTR, if they can get a 4th-round pick or even a 5th-round pick back, I think the Browns are like, sweet, that's awesome. So I think it's a lot of conversation about them trying to drive up price for somebody, because if you look around the room, the only one with actual value, just based off of, I don't think Kenny Pickett's any good, but based off of what we've seen within actual interest would probably be Kenny Pickett. So I think that's what they're doing. But the prevailing thought right now is that they want to keep all 4, and they're going to try to go through the season with 4 at least to start. And it's just, I don't see it happening, but it wouldn't surprise me based off of just the idea that if you start Joe Flacco, well, what's Kenny Pickett going to do? It's not like he's got any other options. And so maybe they really do believe that Kenny Pickett after that can come in, start some games, and be their Sam Darnold project and go from there.
Yeah. The most he would do, I guess, would be if Flacco starts the year and they are, pretty competitive. Maybe they're losing a couple more games than they want, but it looks better than the worst case scenario. They would have to be live, right? They would have to be live to be in the race at some point where you would go to Pickett over a young guy if you're going to make a quarterback change. But that's where it kind of is weird, because if you are at a point where you want to make a quarterback change, I would assume you're probably not that competitive for a playoff spot.
So the only hang-up I would have on that, I agree with a lot of what you said. The only hang-up I would have is the Kevin Stefanski effect of all this. If he's starting to feel like he's got to show people that he's that quarterback whisperer that everyone thinks that he is, this is all ego-driven and this is all perception-driven, but sometimes that's why they make decisions in the NFL. I could see him saying, I want to do this with Kenny Pickett. And what he would tell everyone is Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, not ready. And then he wants to turn Kenny Pickett into Sam Darnold, or he wants to turn him into his version of Sam Darnold or Geno Smith, and just get a bunch of credit for for basically making someone like Kenny Pickett that was left for dead in Pittsburgh and make him good again. And because I think he cares about that image. And if I'm Stefanski, listen, I don't blame him for that. I would try to protect the quarterback whisperer image as well, especially when it's been 6 years and you haven't really done anything with quarterbacks, and somehow you're still seen as this great quarterback coach.
Right, and he definitely is. 2-time coach of the year, when I look at a list of head coaches and think about those types of guys, he does still come up in my mind, even though, right, like maybe he's not got the resume as like a Kevin O'Connell's starting to develop that. But like you said, like why does O'Connell get that? It's because he's now done it with Sam Darnold, who nobody else could do that with. And once you are able to accomplish that, I think as a coach, you're made for at least a few years.
It's one of the more mind-blowing narratives to me that Kevin Stefanski as a head coach gets all this credit for developing quarterbacks. And it's like, who's he made better? Like even Jacoby Brissett, when he started 11 games in place of Deshaun Watson, looked like every time we've ever seen Jacoby Brissett, but people are like, oh, well, Brissett was awesome. I think he's an adult. I think he's got himself well put together. But I don't know what he's done to make everyone in the national media just believe that he can do this quarterback thing, because I got no evidence through 6 years that he can take a quarterback and then make him into something. I think he thinks he's Kyle Shanahan. I think I've told you this before, but he's far from it in that respect.
Yeah. You know what I really think it is? I think it's got to just be he made the playoffs with 5 different guys, right? Like, and that's not answering your question of like who he's developed, because none of those guys are, I mean, Joe Flacco could be a starter this year, but none of those other guys are starters in the league at all. But just the simple fact of he made the playoffs with 5 different starters over the course of the year, I think probably is the thing that's giving him a lot of credit, even though, like, what's really the value of that? The value of that would be, oh, if he did it once, he could do it again. And I don't know, like, that would be this year. This year, he's got 4 guys in that quarterback room. If he could do it again, it would, I think, be crazy, but who is expecting them to start, like, 3-4 different quarterbacks this year and have that work?
Well, the only thing that really worked for them that season that was, like, really awesome, and this, again, goes against Stefanski and any narrative that he's awesome with quarterbacks, was you had one of the best defenses in the entire NFL.
Right.
Like that's why that team was able to do what it was able to do, is that defense the first year under Jim Schwartz was just awesome. And the defense took a major step back last year. And here's what I think will happen with this team this upcoming season. Although I'm not projecting a lot of wins or anything. I think they're going to be like a diet version of the Steelers, where you're just going to try to have a great defense. They drafted 2 running backs in Sampson and Judkins. And you had another one in Jerome Ford, who I actually really like. I think he's pretty good. And I think it's going to be a lot of running and a lot of trying to get the defense to basically just have you in games and try to do what Pittsburgh's been doing for a million years. We both know that doesn't result in any playoff wins. And at best, if everything goes right, Tomlin gets his team to a game over 500. I don't even think that's on the table with this team, but I think that's going to be the recipe that they try to have.
Yeah. So you kind of just answered a little bit. How likely or how possible do you think it is that they do surprise people and they are fighting for a spot late in the year? Maybe they don't make it, but they're even in the hunt graphic with a couple of weeks to go.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like a 1% chance.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sound too down on it, because it's just this is the time of the year for hope and everything like that. But I got to treat your listeners honestly.
Yeah.
There's no projections of optimism there. There can't be. They haven't earned it. Vegas says they're a 4.5 win team. I tend to think maybe it's like a 5 or a 6 win team if everything goes right. But like really pull up the schedule. Like who in the NFL is giving you any of these easy wins or anything to, like for you guys, obviously it's different. You guys probably look at the Browns and you're like, here's our easy win. But even like look at your schedule. Like you see it. All of a sudden it's like, wait, this team is good. This team is good. This team has got a lot of really good players. Like the NFL, NFL right now more than ever, there's just not a lot of teams that are tanking.
That's right. Last thing for you, Jonathan. Fantasy drafts are coming up. I've already got a couple that I'm in. Cleveland, the 2 things I think about for them is if I knew Joe Flacco was starting the whole year, I would love Jerry Jeudy, but I don't think that's probably going to happen, so I'm afraid of it. The other one is Judkins. And how good that could be right away. Rookie running backs all the time are productive in fantasy. I guess how likely would that be for you that he is the number 1 there, and that doesn't the team have to be good enough defensively, or just not they can't be trailing, I guess, by 30 points every week and have him probably be, what people would hope for?
Yeah, it's going to be tough because he's going to be sharing some carries. But I think he's going to have like a 700-800 yard season, somewhere in that range. I think makes a lot of sense, and I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities. Jerome Ford last year still averaged. People don't realize this. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. So now Jerome Ford's very hit or miss, but averaging 5 yards a carry, like you deserve some opportunity. So I think he's going to get that, and I think Sampson's going to just kind of be there. but not get a lot of opportunities. But yeah, like I'm high on Judkins, and I think he's gonna. Now I'd worry about the offensive line. I'd worry about the togetherness of the offensive line. It's a very injured and very old offensive line at this point. So if you want to take a flyer on him, I would not advise against it. But I wouldn't set your lineups on it either.
Yeah. At Jay Peterlin, if you want to follow him on Twitter, 2 to 7 on 92.3 The Fan in Cleveland. Thanks as always, Jonathan, and maybe we'll talk once the season gets rolling.
Definitely. Thanks, Jeff. Have a good one, man.
Thanks. The Browns this year, as he mentioned, they start the year Cincinnati, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota.